So hello everybody, how you doing? This is Mark in A&F, and the A&F team is here. Thank you all for joining. I think we have a critical mass of folks on, so we're going to get kicked off if that's all right. So everybody should have the slide deck. I see, we have a list of folks who are actually looking at that. And basically, the big thing we wanted to go through today was actually a demonstration of the self-service platform and the components of that for you. But let me just walk through the agenda that's on slide 2 really quickly for you. We'll do a quick intro. We'll do the demo, which will be the bulk of it. We expect about 60 minutes, but, we're not sure. And, obviously you can ask questions throughout that. And the one thing we also wanted to go through today as well was just some of the materials and the process for actually onboarding. What that will look like for an authority, the time frame, and some of the support materials that you're going to receive to actually onboard. And then we'll just do a wrap up with further Q&A. So I'm going to go to slide 3. Yeah, hey folks, one thing just for the listening pleasure of us all, if maybe some folks could just mute their phones. We're just kind of hearing a lot of background noise. That's cool. Moving to slide 3, just really a recap. I mean, a lot of the folks on the call I know have been participating through our biweeklies or otherwise. But yeah, as people know, we started this process off in December when Secretary Shore sent a memo out to all authorities, explaining that we were going to be pursuing a self-service platform and the compliance responsibilities that we all shared in onboarding to the Open Checkbook. Since then, we did kickoff meetings with all of you in January. And from there, we've worked to develop the Memorandum of Understanding and Expendable Trust. And we still are working with a number of authorities to execute those MOUs in the next few days. Thank you for all of those people who have already gotten those to us. We were hoping to get as many of those executed as possible by the 31st, which was yesterday. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, please keep working on that. In the build-up to developing what we're going to present today, we had also done a survey with all you, and a lot of that information informed the design and creation of the self-service platform we'll present today. And I think, what the other thing that informed was the kind of 4-wave implementation plan that's going to guide our onboarding during the next 10 months. We basically, we've taken on board your views about when you're ready to onboard. We've also just thought about how the sequence will work for us and the resources we need across that space. And, from there, we've kind of bucketed groups of authorities over the year into 4 waves. And we scheduled the kickoff for the Wave 1 onboarders for next week or the week after, April 11th. So we're really excited about that, and we really appreciate all the help and support of authorities in getting us to this point. But even though only certain authorities are going to be onboarding starting on the 11th, we wanted to basically bring everybody up to speed with where we've got to on the development of the self-service platform that we've created. So that's what today's session is really all about. If you just think about the goals of today's session, just on to slide 4. We want you to leave the session today with a better understanding of, what we've actually created. And, as we'll describe, there's 2 components to it. One is kind of a portal that enables you to upload, validate, and check your information. And the other side will be the public-facing dashboard. So that probably look, vaguely similar, but have some new features to what you've seen for the MSBA, MBTA, or PRIM, the 3 authorities that are already on board. We'll also, we want you to understand what the process for uploading information is going to be via the portal, and what this timeline looks like. I know we've presented at the biweekly calls already kind of what that 13-week session onboarding schedule will look like, and we'll go into greater detail about that today. And then also, just so people know, as we said many times, we're not just throwing you out there and saying, go figure this out. There's a lot of support materials that A&F will provide your authority as you work to onboard, and that also includes, the team being here to support that effort. So, if you guys leave with a better understanding of those things today, this has been a success. Otherwise, I'm going to look to hand off to the team, and we'll start walking through the kind of solution overview and get into the demonstration. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone. This is Corey Jenks here at A&F.
This is.
Hello?
Hello?
Just to let you guys ask, again, to mute your phones just in case there's some background noise so that everyone can hear better. So my name is Corey Jenks, and I'm going to walk you through the things that we built and the process that we have for onboarding going forward. The slide that you have in front of you is really kind of a very high-level overview. What some people may be familiar with right now is our Authority Open Checkbook. We've talked about that at the kickoff. We kind of showed you the demo of what it is in its current state. And this top section here is really kind of that steady state operations of authority sending information to us in the forms of files, and the Commonwealth loading that information onto the authority dashboards and displaying that to the public. And so we'll go over those dashboards again. We've enhanced them to support more of the business context and business information that we got and learned from the surveys and talking with the authorities. And what we've also developed in this lower half here is the authority configuration portal. And so this will help you to onboard your information onto the Authority Open Checkbook and manage that information throughout the life cycle of providing information and data to the Open Checkbook. This allows us to support and manage your contextual information, such as your descriptions and your categories and your list of departments, as well as some feature we've added for audited spending and revenue data to provide kind of a summary of the type of spending and revenue that your authority has. And we'll go into that in a lot more detail as we go through. So those are the two things that we're going to demo, and we'll show you how they tie together. Feel free, as we're going along, to ask any questions. I'll do my best to show you the pieces that address your questions, and then we can take back any questions that we need to follow up with afterwards. So if you'll pardon me for a second, I will switch into the application, which I'm sure is probably timed out. No, it hasn't yet. Great. So what you're looking at here, so this is the Authority Open Checkbook. And what you're looking at here is the home page to the Authority Open Checkbook. Right now we have 3 authorities on the Open Checkbook, but what you can imagine is this list of icons will expand down in this grid as we onboard more and more authorities. And this is really meant to just be that first landing page that people will see to say, well, let's see all the authorities that are on the Open Checkbook. And to find a little bit more about an authority, if you were to click on it, such as I clicked on Prim, then this description would show up below that would describe basically what that authority does, and this is a description that you control and manage through the authority portal. Once a user decides that they want to explore more information, they click on this arrow here, and there's my timeout. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let's do that again. So it takes you to a new page that we've developed. This is a page that's not on the existing site, which is an authority summary page. So this is kind of the home page for that particular authority. So I'm in the Massachusetts Pension Reserve Investment Management Board authority home page. And again, you see its description up here. You see a link to their own website, a link to contact, and a place for a legal disclaimer, as there's a lot of information that shows up on the site here, and this is an area for the authority to put in a disclaimer or more information to tell about that data. Down below, we have information on the left here, and this is that audited revenue and spending data. So an important piece of feedback that we heard was to give a picture of not just what of all our spending is, but where does our revenue come from, and where does on our average audited basis, where does our spending go to? And this is meant to set the context around the authority so people know a little bit more about it. Each one of these allows the user to dive into more detail, and as you can see here, we just have test data up here, but here's where you can control a description around all of your revenue sources, and as well as your audited spending categories that you have up here. So again, providing more context about the authority. Below, there's also an authority details page, which You can further manage that information. You see the same pie charts up here, and along with some extended descriptions, as well as the ability to show what's included in the Authority Open Checkbook and what's not included in the Authority Open Checkbook. So this is your ability to basically describe what information you put in, what information you didn't put in, and the rationale behind that. As the user decides, okay, we want to explore more detailed information around that spending, on the right-hand side here, we have the different categories of spending. Now, in the Authority Open Checkbook and the State Open Checkbook today, we have one category of spending, really. We have payments, and then we have payroll, and we have pension. As we learned more about the authorities and looked at the business models, a lot of the authorities also describe models where they provide loans and they provide grants, and was not appropriate to kind of lump all of those payments together as spending. We needed to provide additional context and different ways of categorizing that information. So you see here we have kind of three major spending categories of payments out to the vendors for services, loans that the authority makes, and then grants that the authority gives. And you see a description down below that appears when I hover over them that you can manage. So if I click on any one of these, I'm taking to kind of our main detail pages that allow me to view spending by categories, spending by departments, spending by recipient, or an advanced search. And you see here I clicked on payments, so right now I'm looking at payments for this. There's my chart. So all of this information is filtered for payments. If I were to click on loans, then this would refresh itself to show the spending or the loans that were given out, and the same for grants. This page is very similar to the page we have up now on the Authority Open Checkbook. It gives an overview, in this case, spending by category, a breakdown of these categories, the spending over time, and down below you can explore the categories and information. If I were to, and this is somewhat familiar for people that have used the Open Checkbook to date, clicking on these binoculars next to a spending category provides me a breakdown of spending by the subcategories. And here you can see descriptions of the spending category, and you can see the information of the subcategories. And then I can expand this to subcategories, and if I click on that again, I'll then get information about that subcategory. And you see now I have the subcategory, and I have the recipients that I've done spending with for that subcategory. So this is really your entryway into looking at your spending by your categories for payments. If I were to click on loans, then now I'm seeing the payments by loan categories. Now what the enhancements that we've done to the site allow you to do is to have a completely different set of categories for your payments versus your loans versus your grants. So you could decide that your loan categories might be different loan programs that you have, and you can provide description around what those loans are as we manage all the descriptions for the categories and subcategories within this. So our goal here has been to provide a lot more ways that you can categorize your information and then also provide descriptive context so that the public that's looking at the site understands the rationale and the purpose for the spending of the loan or the grant. Beyond this, I'll go back to payments. Beyond this, at a lower level detail, much of the site works the same. Something more interesting. And as we go down and look at the spending pieces, these pages remained relatively unchanged, and such that you can drill down into the recipient details and the information on that to view spending by categories, departments, dates, funding type, and then further drill down for a particular payment on a particular payment date and find out information about that specific payment, including the date it was made, the department, the subcategories. So this is very similar to the functionality that's available on the site today. So we offer this viewing spending by category. We also offer it by department and then by recipient. And for people that really need to look for things, there's still the advanced search feature that the site has today. And in this case, you can now search across different spending types if you want to see if one recipient is getting loans, grants, and payments. Is there any general questions on kind of the site enhancements that we have now? As you see, we kind of kept the capabilities and the functionality consistent. We've added more context and the ability to break out spending in a little bit different ways that will align with the authority's business model.
Well, I think it's worth saying, like, this also, like, the additional context, obviously that is context you guys need to provide. But, I mean, what that does is really enable, the people who are going to be looking at the site to understand your organizations better. And I think this was a key point that a lot of authorities made to us was because all your businesses are different, all your kind of stakeholders are different, you wanted to be able to do that. So we've built those additional enhancements with that in mind. And I guess the thing to also note is, you do have discretion in many of these spaces to define the categories as you see fit, to provide descriptions as you see fit, to define, categories, like Corey said, there's payments, grants, loans. That can enable you to really specify what your spending goes for. And I think because Corey also showed you the revenue page, you not only get to, it isn't just show that you guys spent a whole lot of money, you also get to be clear about where you received that money. And often, that's funding that you guys generate not from taxpayers directly, but from other sources. So that's, important contextual information for your stakeholders and the public.
I think the only other thing that to highlight is on all of the pages, we have the ability to filter and refine information, such that I could search across multiple fiscal years, and I could search in specific categories or specific departments, and the information would then show across those time bands and that piece, and that resides on all of the pages. So the next thing I'm going to show you is kind of switch to the authority portal that we built to manage all of this, and I'll show you a little bit of what's in the portal and then how it presents in the dashboards. So the screen I just switched to is the Open Checkbook Authority configuration portal, and I'm already logged in as for the PRIM configuration. And so the goal here is that this is an application that each authority would get a login to, and that would manage their specific information. The main part of this application is to manage all of your context, your descriptions, your definitions, the things that, along with your payment information, will describe what those payments are about. On the home page here, you can see we've added kind of a summary of what's been filled in and what hasn't been filled in. So in this particular case, we've entered authority summary data and spending data descriptions. We haven't entered all of our organizational descriptions, but we have done our audited. So if we look at some of these screens, if I were to go to the authority summary data, it's pretty straightforward. So our authority name, authority description, this is the website and the authority contact. So if you switch back to the authority summary page, here's the name that you're seeing, the description, the contact, and the website. So these are driven off of this configuration. And here's the spending summary that I showed you with some extended description, the legal disclaimer, and then what's included and what's not included. And so this is something that you can manage, you can change. The goal is to not have these change all the time, but it is up to your discretion to manage, what this message is. Moving on to data descriptions. So these are spending categories and related information about your spending data. So as your data comes into the Open Checkbook, you will categorize it with a category and a subcategory, and then that will marry up with the descriptions that you provide here. So here we allow you to manage the description that goes along with the three main categories, loan, grants, and payments. And you can go ahead and edit this description and describe basically what the business that PRIM does with loans or another authority does with loans. Down here, then you have the ability to upload your spending categories and subcategories. So what we've tried to do in this application is to make things kind of as easy as possible, whereas while on a regular basis you're going to be sending us files which have your payment transactions, in order to manage things like descriptions of categories, we wanted to make that a little bit simpler and a little bit more user-friendly. So we have the capabilities here to review and upload. So here's all the spending categories that we had in there for Prim, and we can manage any category and change the information and the description. But we can also upload a whole new data set. And I'm not going to walk through the process. I don't have the file here to upload, but as you can see up here, it kind of takes you through the step-by-step process of providing a file, a comma-separated file or pipe-separated file that you might get out of Excel, and load it into the system. And it will result in basically a list like this being loaded that then you can manage.
Yeah, so in a sense, like once you've gotten the information into the portal, you can manage it directly here. You don't have to keep going back to your file every time. Once it's in there, you can adapt, tweak, amend in the system. So I think that should make it easier. It's just that one time getting that Excel file into this configuration.
Yep. And then down here we have the payroll and pension description information. If I were to switch to those payroll and pension pages, then you would see that description up at the top here. So you can provide those descriptions. This is all your spending type of information. The next part is your organizational data descriptions, and this is really accounts and departments. So optionally, you have the ability to send account information along with each of your payment transaction. It's not something that's required, but it is something that you can do if you want to send the account that the payment was made out of. And this allows you to basically put descriptions against any of those account codes. And in the same way, department descriptions. Every transaction has an associated department, and this is the process of managing that department list. Again, you can upload the information, and then you can also manage it, one description at a time. Lastly is the spending and revenue audit data. So the information that controls these pie charts here, and the subsequent pages that have descriptive information, that is managed on this page. So here's an overall description of, authority revenue and where that revenue comes from, and an overall description of audited spending. And then you have the ability to upload and edit those pieces. So here we see the full fiscal year, the revenue source, the description, as well as the revenue amount. So this is really the information that is going to then generate that pie chart. And you have a similar upload capability so that you can do that on a regular basis, or you can edit it one row at a time. So this is the configuration information that, along with your transactions, will provide that context. And this information you can manage whenever you see that information needs to change. Is there any questions on some of the screens I just showed you? I know I was kind of clicking a little bit fast. If there was some lag in the presentation, just let me know, and I can go back to anything. So the other piece of the configuration portal is the file monitoring. So this is now something that is going to monitor when you send data files to the Open Checkbook. So on a monthly basis, weekly basis, the period that we define together, files representing payment or loan transactions are going to be sent, and this screen will have a record of all the files sent and all the files processed. So if you needed to look to see, I sent that file, has it been processed yet, or when did I last send a file, then this screen would have basically a record of that. It also would allow you, if I were to select a particular file, it'll allow you to delete file records. So if you sent a file and there were things in error that you wanted corrected, you have the ability to delete those records out of the system and then upload new records. We'll also have the ability to delete a fiscal year's worth of records. So say if you wanted to update all of your historical data for a fiscal year, then you would have the ability to remove those and then upload and then send a new file to the Open Checkbook representing those new payment transactions. So the goal here again is a lot more self-service for you to manage your information and how that information is going to be displayed. Any questions about the authority portal? I must be a really good presenter. Everything is very straightforward. Obviously, if you have any questions afterwards and offline, we'd be happy to follow up with anything. As we start the onboarding process, we're going to go through these again in detail and talk about each field and how it works, and have an opportunity to ask questions as we get into the detail then as well. Okay, if there's no questions about these two applications, I'm going to go back to the presentation and talk about the onboarding process. So what I just went over is kind of our two sides of the application. There's the authority configuration portal that will configure your descriptions and definitions information. And then there's the dashboard that is going to use those descriptions, marry them up with the payment transactions that you send, and show those dashboards to the public. So the onboarding process it kind of mirrors that two stages, where the first side is our onboarding activities, where the authority works with the configuration portal to enter descriptive data, upload spending, revenue, and organizational information, and get that configuration the way that you want to see it. In our onboarding environment, you then start to upload actual spending files. Now, in this environment, this is an environment specifically for onboarding. It is not open to the public. It is only seen by the particular authority, and so you have a kind of a full environment here to work with and to test out repeatedly the information and the descriptive information that goes along with it. So you enter your descriptive information, and then you send files to the spending files to the dashboards, and then look at the dashboards in this onboarding environment to make sure that the information is represented the way that you expect it to be represented based on your configuration. And the environment allows you to basically delete your information, change your information, and iterate over it until your categories, your descriptions, and your data appear on these dashboards the way that you would want to see them. And this is kind of that onboarding piece. At the end, and I'll go through the process in a little bit more detail in the next slide, and at the end, A&F will work with you to kind of validate the completeness of that and make sure that all the areas show up well on the dashboards and that no areas have been kind of left blank that might not show appropriately. Once that information and onboarding is done, the configuration is transferred over to our production public-facing environment, and then then you would send your latest spending files to that environment to have the information show up on the public dashboards. This slide here shows kind of that 13-week timeline that we're projecting for each wave of onboarding. And the process that we're following is starting with a kickoff, and basically the first week or two will be to familiarize the authorities with the applications again, go into a little bit more detail about what they are, talk about the file specifications and answer questions and define that information, and really prep the authority for all the information they need to start their configuration. There's two main tracks to the configuration. There's defining the contextual descriptive information and developing the authority data file. In the descriptive information, this is where you'll be working with the configuration portal. You'll be defining your spending categories for payments, for grants, for loans, your revenue and department information, and be working with the configuration portal to upload that information and fine-tune it. In parallel, working with your systems to basically develop data files of the information coming out of your systems, either manually or through an automated fashion. And then moving into a process of validating information where the contextual information and the spending data files come together, and you look at the onboarding dashboards to ensure that it is working the way that you expect it to work. And this is a process really when we get into it, is trying to be an iterative process to test these out, take a look at it, change them, and do that repeatedly until that you're satisfied with that your information is represented correctly. Throughout this entire process, we are there for support. We will have regular meetings for questions, answers. We'll have specific meetings on topics if we need to, and naturally we'll help with any technical issues or challenges that come up as they're using the environments. Once everyone feels that the information appropriately represents the authority, then we'll move into the deployment process, which, as I said, takes that information and brings it to the public live dashboards. Any questions on the high-level process?
Excuse me, this is Matt Hausen. In the earlier, when demonstrating the product, we saw some stuff on budgeting. Are the agencies expected to upload their annual budgets onto this website also?
Absolutely not. So what you're probably referring to, if I haven't timed out already, is if I clicked on revenue details, and one of the categories of revenue details was budgetary. So it's kind of complementary to the state here is that we budget information, so it's a budgetary funding source. This is really just our test data. This is something that you would maintain in the portal. For example, if I were to switch to the portal, all this is here on our revenue data is just a name and a description. So that is all that's managed here. So there's no budget or uploading of budget or information or uploading of any revenue transactions in the system. The only thing we provide for revenue right now is kind of this basic table and set of descriptions.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you're going to get to define what the sources are. You'll get to describe them, where they come from. I mean, I guess to the degree like an organization received a significant amount or an amount of appropriations from the state, you might want to describe it, budgetary appropriations. And that would be, one of the pieces of the pie chart. So that's all we're talking about.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Okay. So the next piece that we're just going to talk about is moving on beyond the configuration through the portal, is talk a little bit about how we can get the data, the payment data from yourself, the authority, into the open checkbook. And the first part is that part of the process where you would create a mechanism or a means to take that data out of the systems or files that you store that information in and put it into a file format that the open checkbook accepts. And during the onboarding process, we'll go through in detail about that file format. We've made it as basic and straightforward with kind of the minimum set of information. So the goal is that we've always had is to be flexible to allow you to provide lots of information, but not require it such that we can make it as easy a job for you as possible. So this really just shows two paths that we've encountered with agencies and authorities that get their information. One, in the simplest case, is really a manual piece where an authority staff will really just export their information, maybe from QuickBooks or some other source, into an Excel file, and then convert that Excel file to the pipe delimited format that we have. And that's a very easy conversion. And the second option is where larger organizations that have systems in place can develop automated process to export from your system right into the file format that the Open Checkbook accepts. And we have payments data, payroll, and pensions data. So we have multiple file formats based on the information that you're going to be providing. Again, the formats are pretty simple. We're really talking only about 10 to 15 fields at most, and in a very simple format. Once you have the file in that format, the process of getting it to Open Checkbook, while slightly technical, is also pretty straightforward. The Commonwealth has a technology called an interchange service. An interchange service is basically just a way that even within the Commonwealth, agencies in the Commonwealth and external to the Commonwealth can transfer files of information, and this provides a secure transfer mechanism such that we know where the information comes from and that the information gets to its destination securely and is not made available to anyone else. During the onboarding process, we will work with you to set up that interchange service, and that's as simple as setting up an interchange account with the service here, and then installing a tool local to your machine that would allow you to transfer that information. For those that are more technical in the crowd, this is a simple file transfer FTP protocol, and there are several tools that you can put on your Windows machine or other machines that would allow you to drag and drop files that would get them to us.
And this is what the current authorities are doing.
And this is what the current authorities do, MSBA, PRIM, and MBTA. And in some cases, they're doing it manually. I know MSBA does that, and in some cases, automated, such as MBTA. So we'll work with you to set that up, but once set up, it's a fairly simple process just to send the file our way, and then we would have that file and load it into our system. So this is something that we would do on a regular basis, and we track logs of the files that we receive, and if there's any issues with the files, we send emails saying successfully transferred, or if there's any issues or rejects that would happen, and we would work with you to handle any of those issues. And again, through the configuration portal, you can see the files that have been uploaded. Any questions on the file generation and transmission process? So the last piece on the onboarding process here is the support materials. As I said before, we're here throughout the entire process, and we will have regular communication, regular question and answer sessions, and specific meetings to talk about topics. In addition, we're going to provide a series of support materials, Project Charter, which talks about roles, responsibilities, schedule and expectations, an onboarding process guide, which kind of goes over in more detail the things that I was just talking about. The data file specification, so this is a specification which lays out each field in the data file and the constraints of the information and how it needs to be there. Some sample data for the specifications. The Authority Onboarding Portal User Guide, so for the configuration portal, this will be a user guide that you can refer to for any questions about how to use it. And then the secure file transfer setup documentation. So this will be the documentation to set up the transfer of data from the authority to the open checkbook. Before I just jump to next steps, is there any questions about the onboarding process, the applications that I showed you, or kind of anything we've talked about?
Are these slides going to be available to us? Are you going to email these slides out to the group?
So we'll actually go over right in the next page. Did you want to cover this?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as let's maybe just cover some of the next steps, and then we can talk about, what you'll be receiving pretty soon, or at least all authorities will. But yeah, I mean, so obviously, we're going to start with focusing on the Wave 1 participants in the onboarding. And we're kicking that off April 11th, as we described. And that's something that's going to be pretty intensive, and we're going to be meeting with those authorities on a pretty regular basis. We've been doing these biweekly calls, as some of you are probably familiar with. We're going to be shifting those calls to a monthly cadence with everybody, but that's, obvious a forum for if you're onboarding later in the year, you can continue to check in with us through those biweekly calls as well. I mean, more immediately, what we're going to do is we're going to get you informational packets that are going to have some of the information we described, like the sample data files, the file formats, things like that. Those are going to go to Wave 1 participants, but if you really want to get that, we obviously can make that available to folks so you can kind of get up to speed a little quicker. The Wave 1 kickoff's pretty soon thereafter. We're pretty excited about that. And, as we've mentioned before, we have this support website that we've created already, and a lot of the documents we've described, they're going to be posted there. So you'll be able to find them at at that website. So it's right there, and you can just click there and see it. So that's kind of how you're going to get this information. We also are recording this session. Is that correct?
That is.
Yeah, so hopefully the recording will work, and if so, we will be able to make this available to everybody again, and you could then, I imagine, distribute that to colleagues who weren't able to participate on this webinar. So, not only see the slides, you'll see, and hear this session again. So we'll be communicating that out pretty soon. But I mean, one thing, we obviously have been engaged with authorities on an individual basis where they've had questions, and we will continue to do that. You just tell us if you have questions, shoot a line to the email, the Open Checkbook Quasi's email, and we'll get right back to you. We can also set up a call or time to further discuss things. And one thing I just, emphasize just in the, immediate future is if you haven't completed your MOU, let us know if there's an issue or problem with that, but otherwise let's try to get these things done as soon as we can. And thank you to all the authorities who have gotten those to us already. In general, we really have been appreciative of the participation and time people have given to this process. We know you all have day jobs. This is an extra ask, but you guys have been great in supporting us so far, and we hope we can support you through the rest of this process going forward. So, got another shot at any final questions? Or not final questions, but please shoot.
Well, excellent. So you'll find give us a few days, and then we'll get this presentation and the materials up on the site that you see here, and look forward to hear from you after that.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.